a God that created consciousness, and consciousness as that God that is itself. Right there in that little concept, there's an implication that there is a science level to God, not just a spiritual level to God. It's not just God is holy and God on his day of creation decided to create consciousness. It's saying that there is a force, a source, and a cognizant group of energy in the cosmos that exists, always has. It's its own point of creation. What's really neat is when you get that little concept, the others help you to fine-tune a little more. The collective cosmic consciousness is a gestalt of conscious identity that represents the point of eternal cognition. Now that's a mouthful. If you think about what might a point of eternal cognition be, I reduced that to, all right, what is a point of cognition, eternal or not? If you think about how your own mind works, and you look within yourself a little bit, if you lean back into your energy, somewhere right around in here is for me, there's a space, a mental space, that you don't usually put yourself there unless you're used to doing TM or meditation or prayer. There's a little space in there that watches everything else from the inside. It's like a more inside part of you here. It is a point of cognition. There is an awareness there that goes beyond words, it goes beyond linear language, it goes beyond even thoughts. It's just a point of knowing. And we all have within ourselves somewhere, actually we have several. Some people feel it in the heart chakra, others feel it up around the head. There is a point of cognition where it's just knowing existence. Without even defining it, just complete knowing of it as reality, period. If you amplify that little point of cognition that each one of you carry, hopefully maybe a little later one of the exercises will get us to where you can take that, drag it out of the closet and take that point home with you and remind yourself you have it. But if you put that point of cognition into a huge macrocosmic scheme and amplify it by infinite numbers, you would have an eternal point of cognition that is simply a sublime, complete, and total awareness of all that is, was, and ever will be. You can use that to describe something about what it's like to think as God. That eternal point of cognition is the place in which everything continually is started and finished and takes place all at the same time. It's a mind space. And the truth of reality, and the scientists love to fight with me on this one, but eventually they're going to find what I mean. We are all taking place within the mind and heart of God. We are all existing within God's source. God is not out there someplace. God is not a concept that people who can't deal with reality had to invent because they couldn't look at 3D and say, I can deal with this. Well, the scientists like to look at it that way. Oh, only people that can't deal with reality the way it really is will look for spirituality or look for God. It's a cop-out. No, that's a cop-out. It's much easier to say, I'm just going to face what's before my face and not admit that I'm terrified to find out what might be between my ears and beyond. So we're dealing with science, spirituality. We are dealing with consciousness. An awesome magnitude of consciousness is capable of anything. And the exciting part is, every one of us is a manifestation of that. And it's not that a God up there sat down and said, I'll create Joe and Jane and this person. I think I'll do that. No, it's set in motion, a movement of consciousness that perpetually recreates itself. And that is you. When you expand into what you were before you got all the way down here, you are that eternal point of cognition. You are the one that decided to create a cosmic family, and then a universal family, and then a galactic family, and a planetary family, and eventually come down as an individual being. And every one of those, all the way up that tree, from the individual all the way up to the cosmic family level of consciousness, is a state of knowing yourself that you will pass through and going home. It's a progressive expansion of consciousness back into God. A lot of people that do start to feel the frequency of God, that is a frequency, and you can start to feel it, they feel a great sense of reverence. And that reverence is very appropriate, but sometimes it gets put into a form of very deep subservience, where they feel inferior, where they feel they must grovel before this wonderful divine, that they must follow some book or some type of program that tells you how God expects you to behave before God will even consider you worthy enough to pay attention. The reverence gets twisted the way our belief systems are here. It's great to have reverence, but you should be part of what you're having reverence for. There is no God out there, not a real God. Now there's some higher forms of consciousness that are called avatars that like to mess with us and like to say, I'm the God, worship me. But that's only their own immaturity. The true God being, that point of eternal consciousness, that everything takes place within, values each and every one of its parts equally. And each and every one of its parts, when it gets back together, like it grows back into what it was, becomes that self. There's a relationship here that I'm trying to get across, that we've been taught things about God for, all through our history. We've been taught this, we've been taught that. We've had holy wars of the Lord, where your interpretation of God is very different than mine, so you're wrong and I'm right, and God told me I'd kill you. I mean, this is basically what we've been doing to each other down here. If people would get it, just finally get it, we are all the face of God. We are all made of God's stuff. Some of us have belief systems that don't remember that, and so we hurt each other. But nobody's God is better than anybody else's God. It's all the same God. So, when we get to know we're dealing with all the same God, the next step is learning to deal with the fact that God is energy. That means we have to let the scientists in the door to the chapel. And that can be frustrating, because scientists can sometimes get very arrogant with spiritual people that, you just don't know what you're talking about, all that, fairy type stuff. There is a point where the two things come together, and that point is consciousness. Because consciousness is an energetic substance. So therefore, this is a new thing that our belief systems have not taught us yet. God is made of substance. It's not an intangible thing you can almost not conceive of. It is a structure of consciousness that is made of substance. It's the substance that you're made out of, too. There's no difference between the substance that your body is made out of and your mind and the mind of God. They are all the same substance. And this is important because we need to grow into a situation where we are able to realize that we see our bodies as these solid matter things, and they certainly feel like it, especially if they get hurt. There is a level when you start expanding into God, where you look at this and it looks like a wave pattern. It's not solid. It's only the angular relationships between the spins of particles that is giving you the illusion of matter solidity. It's giving you the illusion of separation in space and separation from each other. And this is part of the reality that God created, that you as God created for yourself to experience. So we're going to explore this a little bit with the things we get into as we proceed. Now, the next point that I would like to read as far as the source of consciousness. The cosmic gestalt is conscious sentient identity in the form of energy. There's that substance thing. It's not just consciousness. I've had some good debate with people, particularly of Eastern religions, who are taught that consciousness and spirit are not energy. There's things without substance at all. Not really. There is substance to this energy. They are units of consciousness. That's what the universe is built of. So if you're going to say that consciousness has no substance, then you must at the same time say nothing has substance at all. If consciousness is one of those unreal qualities, so is this. The chair you're sitting on, the face you see in the mirror, it's not real at all. And in truth, both are right. There is substance to consciousness. And your body is a form of consciousness. It's made of consciousness particles. It certainly seems like it has substance. But at the same time, consciousness is beyond all form. It is a form unto itself, and it is the only form. So the Eastern philosophies, the Western ones, and the Guardian ones, are actually right. They're saying the same thing, they just don't know it. Now, we get into energy identity, because that's what we're talking about. If we have consciousness, we have identity. But if we have substance, we have energy. You put substance and consciousness together, and you get energy identity. And that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with God, and that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with yourself, or your neighbor, or anybody else here. We are all energy identity beings. And there's one really wonderful thing about energy that's been provided by the scientists for us, and it's a rule that's very true. And it helps us to understand something about what's going to happen to us when we leave here. That's this rule here. Energy identity cannot be created or destroyed. It only changes form perpetually and eternally. That solves the question right there of, well, where did God start? Where did energy start? It didn't. It always was. It changes form constantly, but it is never destroyed. It never goes away. You are made of consciousness. You are made of energy. You will not go away ever. You'll change form, and you already have many times. But this is a wonderful revelation for a lot of people here, particularly people who haven't tried to embrace the spiritual concept. They seem to think that when the body dies, they're gone, and that's it. And some of them hope that there's something else over on the other side. They don't really know what. It implies, by the nature of the laws of energy themselves, which our scientists make sure we abide by or it's not real, it implies that we continue on and on and on, changing form. So this is other things that we can understand about what is God, what is the source of consciousness. These are characteristics and attributes that can be applied to that. And it doesn't hurt to have a broader framework than what we came in with, because you will always be expanding. And there's always more to learn about what that is. But we're leading you into some of these ideas for a reason. We want you to understand, first of all, where the rest of what we're going to talk about takes place. Because it takes place in this God mind. And we need to give you some kind of at least loose idea of where this space is. Because when we're in physical bodies, we tend to need a space. Okay, if these structures exist, where are they? Where do they exist? Put it on a map for me. This helps the logical mind. It helps the linear mind to build the concepts through which God cognition can come through. So, we are going to get into, is it getting hot? Say, yeah. How are you back there? Is it hot back there too? Or is it just up here?
No, it's back here too.
Do you think does it have a fan or anything like that? Can you possibly get a fan? Is that okay? I'm going to try to cool it down a little here because it's hot and I'm agreeing here. It's very hot. You know, I can't reach it. Thank you. Okay. So, now, I'll talk a little bit here about the heart and mind of the God source. There's attributes of the God source. A creative cognition, an intelligent self-movement. That means it cognates, it can think, it's intelligent. And self-movement means it can move itself. It can move its mind, it can move the energy of which it's composed. And that's what it did to make creation happen. And that's what it does perpetually to make creation happen. So these are attributes of the Gestalt identity that we call God. Now, the eternal point of cognition, within which all creation flows, can be viewed as the heart of God. So the mind of God is a little different. That's the place where the movement happens, in the mind of God. But in the heart of God is that eternal point of cognition that we talked about. That stillness that's beyond thoughts, words, all of that motion. And then there's one other part. There's the eternal still point, within which all creation exists. And it can be viewed as the God source. So there is a point of stillness within which all the motion takes place. It is a void within which all creation exists. So when you're dealing with the God source, the God mind, that one day you'll expand to become, you're dealing with motion of the God mind. You're dealing with cognition, still just direct cognition of the God heart, and complete stillness. The polarities are balanced there. You have motion and stillness. These are parts of the God mind that are reflected in your cells, in the microcosmos and in the macrocosmos. So to understand these things a little bit will help you to understand you a little bit more. Yeah. You want the next one, maybe? I'm just going to go through this one quick because I talked about some of this already on the last sheet. The eternal point of cognition that I had mentioned Okay? In the God mind. Where is this located? This is what I was told when I asked that question, if I'm going to describe to somebody, well, where might this structure exist? They said that all things exist as idea constructions within the God source, within that eternal point of stillness. All things are idea constructions. That was an interesting concept. I had to think about what's an idea. Okay, I know an idea is the things that go through my head when I'm thinking. What is a construction? A building, something formed or built up. So all things, including our identities and our bodies and the reality structures we walk around in, they're structures of thoughts. The big thoughts, God thoughts. God thoughts set the framework that our little thoughts could take place in. Now, the God heart is the eternal point of cognition through which creation flows. The God mind is the movement of consciousness through which creation takes place. The heart mind of God is called the unicide in a lot of the races of higher evolution. That's their vocabulary. It means point of absolute union, where everything that is, was, or ever will be is in one point. And it's a point of Gestalt consciousness that has substance and at the same time has no substance, that exists within movement and within a void simultaneously. God, in human terms, the way the human brain works and the way the human mind needs to try to synthesize concepts, God will always be a paradox, because it will be the union of the opposites, and it will not be one or the other. And that's sometimes very hard for the human mind to understand. But these are some of the things that as you expand your consciousness, you won't need the words for, because you'll just get it. It's called direct cognition. And as you begin to expand, you will find direct cognition coming to you more and more. I talk about expanding in the later portion of this afternoon. We're going to talk about expansion and about the mechanics of how that occurs. There is a way, there is a roadmap to expanding into these states of consciousness. And we've done some of this in some of the other workshops. We've talked about the Huva bodies and different energy constructs like that. And we're going over a little bit more of this right now. We're showing you where this fits into the bigger structure of all it is. We're going to wrap up a little for the people who weren't in other workshops. We're going to cover a little bit on the Huva bodies. We're going to give you a concept of understanding yourself and God and your relationship to God that's very, very useful. It's a concept of cosmic eggs. Eggs within eggs within eggs within eggs. Never separated from each other. It's like, I believe they're Russian dolls. Kind of like that, where you have the big doll and then the little one all the way down. Our identity structure, the energetic form of our identity, of our consciousness, is structured this way. This is the structure that, as we expand the little eggs, you progressively get to the big egg, which is the cosmic egg, which is the Gestalt consciousness that we call God. There are specific processes of energy dynamics that can be used once you understand how these eggs are formed. The idea is, it's a little game really, it's get through the eggs. How do you make the eggs pop to get to the next egg? And if we can look at it in simple, easy terms, we're not intimidated by the concept of dimensional ascension. Okay? It's actually dimensional ascension through Huva body integration. And that sounds a little more intimidating than pop the eggs. So, for both sides of you, for the mature adult and the inner child, this can work. We will get into explaining what I mean by that silly little concept. And the thing that when they taught me this part, to look at it this way, even though I know these levels of consciousness, I've experienced them before, I couldn't figure out how to bring them down here in a concept that worked, that did it. That's that feeling that I was trying to put words on. This did it, the eggs. Because there's one little trick to this. When you find out how the eggs work and how they're stacked, you get this really weird ability to look around you, and for maybe the first time, everything around you, look out the window, look, across the river, you are walking around in an egg. You're walking around in a morphogenetic field. People say, well, where are these morphogenetic fields that you talk about if they're real? We're walking around in one. There's many more of them. That is the funny part. Once you start to get this, it does something weird to your emotional body. You start to realize, I've never been separate from anything in my life, and I felt alone. That's really strange. People, we're taught to believe we're separate from things. We're separate from God. We're separate from each other. We're separate from the cosmos. We're separate from the planet. It's all an belief systems projected through the body are doing. We change those belief systems and we get out of our own way. And one very good way to do it is to start realizing we're eggs, we're an egg within an egg within an egg. So if you could sit for a moment and try to feel, it's just a concept of, instead of this being a map, say, you picture a map of the world and there's this little town New York City down here, and this little building down here. Just imagine it all as one energy egg. And then bring it in a little tighter. Imagine the room as one energy egg. And then bring it in a little tighter where you can feel that energy egg around your shoulders. And down, they don't believe they're fitting up above your head. If you focus on looking for these energy eggs, you will find them. What you're finding is boundaries of your morphogenetic field, where it connects with the morphogenetic field of the group you're sitting in, of the building you're in, of the state and town and all that the building's in. We're morphogenetic eggs put inside morphogenetic eggs. They're all interwoven, all connected. What reality is one massive, unified field of consciousness. And we are all a part of it. There's nowhere else to go. You don't have a choice. There isn't an outside to it that you can stand yourself away from being part of the oneness. That is God. That is the energy of the cosmos. You can use a belief system that makes you feel separate, that makes you feel cut off, like you have no energy or no place to belong. And a lot of homeless people do this. They've been taught this erroneous belief system where they really feel they have no home, they have no place to be. If they knew, of course I do. I mean, unit of the consciousness of God, I'm walking around in God. Yeah, I'm at home. Their thoughts create things. When you feel you're not at home, you're creating a thought grid that might indeed make you homeless. If we could all realize, right where we stand, we are at home. And even if you stand someplace that you don't like, if you happen to be in a yucky situation, you don't like it here, you don't want to be here, you want to be someplace else, you are still standing in God. Now the idea is to figure out how to stand in a part of God that you'd like to see better. Okay? Now, all right, I think we're going to go on to the next one. And, let's see, the instruction. Okay, we'll get this a little bit. I'm noticing that most of the people here are people who have been at some of the workshops before, so that's good, so I don't have to go into like heavy-duty Keylontic morphogenetic sciences or part of A, part of A, that lecture that you've heard before, probably over and over, and if you have the chart packs from other ones, you've probably seen it over and over. If there's anybody, is there anybody who's never been to one of these? Okay, there are several. I will then have to cover some of that, okay? So for the people who've heard it before, we'll try to capsulize it in one of those little eggs as quickly as possible, but just to give the people that haven't had exposure to Keylontic morphogenetic science, it will be hard to catch up if I don't give them some kind of grounding in it. Okay, first of all, we'll talk about the God mind as being made of energy substance. That substance is in the form of units of consciousness, and consciousness have vibration. They are little movements. Movements of what? Movements of energy. Consciousness is energy. It does have a substance. Okay, this is kind of neat, that both physical and non-physical forms are made of tangible units of consciousness substance. And thus physical and non-physical realities are equally valid and real. Consciousness is the only substance. So a lot of people here, when they find people that talk to other beings that they can't see, they start to say, well, that person's talking to unreal things. People here don't realize that whether consciousness or energy is in a manifest or a non-manifest state to our perceptions, it is still the same thing. Because they don't realize that the reason this looks manifest to them is simply because their focus of attention is stationed one-dimensional band above the one they're seeing. That's the only reason this looks solid to you. This doesn't look solid to the higher levels of your identity, but the dimensional band just below where their focus does. That's a little trick to the way it works. If you want to see what D4 looks like, fourth dimension, you need to shift your consciousness to fifth dimensional consciousness. It will see exactly one dimension below as a solid form. And what is it seeing? It's seeing a morphogenetic field. If you could look at a morphogenetic field as a conglomeration of energy, happens to be formed on geometrical shapes. That's where you get sacred geometry and all of that. There is a structure of energy movement that takes the form of geometries and mathematics that form morphogenetic fields. Morphogenetic fields are not physical constructs like we have physical here. But this isn't a physical construct either. It only appears that way because of the station of our consciousness in relation to the level of the morphogenetic field that we're perceiving. We are walking around in a huge unified field of energy, and we will only see portions of it as fully manifest. Which means, if we don't like it here, and we want to see someplace else manifest, we need to learn to shift our consciousness, because then this will fall out of our range of perception, and the new reality field will come into our range. This is what we are involved in our evolution. We are progressively shifting the state of our consciousness from third dimension to fourth, from fourth to fifth. So progressively, we will see new reality fields begin to appear for us. It happens so slowly that we don't notice it happening. It's just the progress of time, is what it appears to be. The illusion of time is created as identity expands upward into the dimensional scale. It perceives one moment moving after another as the past falls away. The past isn't done. It's part of the morphogenetic field. It can still be moved. But it falls out of your range of perception. The only thing that's in your present moment focus of perception is what's one-dimensional land below, where your consciousness is stationed. So as we progress into expansion, which is absorbing more dimensions into our consciousness, we will begin to see reality fields that we think are not real right now. You know, hear people are channeling, they're doing this, they're doing the other thing, they're weird. You know, they're not dealing with reality. The scientists love this. You know, it's not solid reality. Prove it to me that it's real. Well, the proof is the simple rule that, well, if I could put your consciousness a few dimensions above, you would see those dimensions I'm talking about. It's very solid and very physical. And in truth, even your dimension here is not solid or physical. It only seems that way when you're focused in it. So there is a place where science and religion, where scientists and clergy could come together if they really wanted to, where the scientists could say, acknowledge, this is a concept that's really workable, it's very possible with what we know about quantum physics. We could actually probably bring validity and prove the existence, at least mathematically, of these other worlds. The clergy could then say to the science people that we told you all along God existed, but you wouldn't listen. But the scientists will say, well, we told you all along it was about energy. They're both right. They just haven't found that out here yet. We can be ahead of the game. We can know we are energy identity. We can know that there are certain processes that are very scientific of multidimensional energy through which we expand to become more spiritual. That's what we work with in our program. That is some of the secrets of the Melchizedek races and the guardians who come here periodically to share this information with this race. They've been here before, but this information in this form, I was told, has not been available nor permitted in one place on the planet for 600,000 years. Our history is much longer than we've been taught. We've been here for 550 million. We were elsewhere before that. So it's a good time to suspend judgment when you think about what you've been taught. To say, maybe the ones who taught me were the books that I was taught from. Just didn't know. You know, maybe they were face-locked in one-dimensional band and that's all they saw. And that's really what was going on. This paradigm that we're presenting is going to show you the structure of the bodies that belong to you, part of your anatomy you probably forgot you had, energy eggs that you're progressively going to expand into. This is the anatomy you need to know about. We got fixated on our physical form. It's like, you know, staring at one dot on the television and forgetting the rest of the picture going by. That's basically what happened to us. So if we can learn to pull back a little bit and look at the greater picture, we will set ourselves free, and it will start slow. It will start with little movements of your consciousness. Your consciousness can do things that you didn't know it could do. We can train it to do different things, and that's we have a program that we're putting together of Keylontic technique tapes. And I know there's some people who've been waiting for them, and we almost have them today. There's 6 of them that we have done. The first 6 in the program, and when you fuse them together, they're very powerful. They can get you to other spaces in your consciousness that, you know, a lot of people didn't know they had. We were very close to having them ready, and there was a problem with getting them duplicated this time to be here, so we had to catch the plane coming from Florida. So they'll be ready 2 days after the workshop, which is not going to help you any, but we will take, for anybody who wants to look into them, we'll take, like names and get them to you this week. You can send out a mail after we get back if they are ready at this point, which is an accomplishment. I've been trying very hard to get those tapes. Few people know that. So there's a process that's involved in chaotic morphogenetic science, that's involved with every spiritual paradigm that's ever been brought here. This chaotic science is what they were all teaching. They were teaching the spiritual part in order to have the energy dynamics happen. We teach the energy dynamics in order to have the spiritual parts happen. It doesn't really matter which side you begin with. It all comes to the same thing, awakening. Awakening to the fact that you are one with God, and we are one with each other there, because we are all God, walking around looking at itself. And if you start to remember that, reality changes. You start to look at each other very differently. I look at you and they see me, and I say, I love all of you, And it's like, some of you look back and you know it too. And it's like God's sitting there just pieces smiling at itself. Isn't this neat? We're remembering. This is what whole collectives of people can do. If countries realized that we are one, just all consciousness, it's just running around in different costumes down here, they wouldn't be running around killing themselves with each other. This knowledge can set you free from the pain and hurt that's created here by lower belief systems. Okay, now, we've talked about morphogenetic fields, the form-holding blueprints behind every manifestation, be it consciousness, be it identity, or be it matter. We've talked about idea constructions, which are structures of ideas that form morphogenetic fields. There's a neat little thing about thoughts that most people don't realize. If we're dealing with a morphogenetic field, as literal energy construct is a thing. It has substance, it has shape, it has form, and it does certain things. Most people don't realize every time you think a thought, you're creating a morphogenetic field. Your thoughts don't just disappear when they leave your head. They go somewhere. This is what a lot of the New Age thing is about, where, thoughts are things, be careful what you think, you're manifesting. They're right, the people that teach that, but a lot of times they don't have the science to back it up. To say, well, okay, if I'm doing this, how am I doing this? You don't need to know how to make it work. But it doesn't hurt to know how. When you think a thought, you're setting in motion a group of units of consciousness. Remember, consciousness is substance. So you're pulling together some particles of consciousness. They will form something called a particle grid. Units of consciousness are called particle, particle, and particle. There are names for these. They're ultra-microparticles that our scientists haven't discovered yet, because they don't have instrumentation that can measure multidimensionally yet. But they are legitimate physical particles, sort of physical, if there is such a thing as physical. They are particles, in as much as any other particle that has been identified. These particles, and this is chaotic morphogenetic science, for those in the back who haven't been here before, chaotic morphogenetic science teaches us that consciousness comes in units, just like particles. They're microparticles. They have a crystalline structure. If you can look at, or imagine in your mind, a crystal cluster, like a quartz cluster, consciousness forms in those shapes, in its base form as units of consciousness. Units come together, they form crystallizations. Those crystallizations come together, they form strands of consciousness, strands of crystals. Those strands interweave and form grids. They're called particle grids, and they are grids of sound and light, crystallized sound and light. These are the morphogenetic templates that we are talking about. They have substance. It's crystalline substance. They call it a crystal body. Every morphogenetic field is a crystal body. And every thought you think has a crystal body. You are a creator. You are just like God. We were created in the image just because we are that image when we get a higher expansion. We have the same abilities imbued within us. When we think, we create. When God thought, or when we thought as a collective as God, and set this whole system in motion, all we did was think. And so it was. Because when we thought, we created morphogenetic fields. We created particle grids that allowed units of consciousness to collect in certain ways, to collect in certain geometrical forms, and build up, slowly build up more particles of consciousness until it built itself out. and became something that resembled matter. There are levels to matter that our bodies go through to come into manifestation, that we will leave to get fully out of manifestation. But what's kind of neat is every thought you think also goes through the same process. Every time you think, you are being a creator. You are birthing something into life that wasn't quite there before in that form. You're changing forms that were already there into something new. Because you really can't create anything or destroy it. You can exchange its form. It's energy. It's consciousness. Now, when you think, one little thought you hold in your head, and then you release it, to you it's gone. It probably means it didn't go directly one dimension below. Because you see it as solid. If you thought of a cup, and the rule was that as soon as you think a thought, it goes to the dimension below, things would poof right in your face. You'd have them all over the place. You know, you could think of $1 million and poof, it would be right there. It doesn't work that easy, unfortunately. When you think a thought, your consciousness is in a certain set of dimensional bands. What will happen is that thought becomes a morphogenetic field right there within the greater morphogenetic field of those dimensional bands. You've planted a seed. And the nature of thought is it draws to itself. The nature of morphogenetic fields is they draw to themselves more like particles, and they fill themselves out in matter. So technically, the trick to manifesting things, if you can get out of your own way with the belief systems and things that are in the way, you want to see something physically manifest. That means you need to put it one dimension below your station of consciousness, which helps to know where your consciousness is stationed, so to know what dimension you're aiming for. But you can think a thought. Once you move your consciousness beyond it, that means you're raising your consciousness above it. So before too long, you'll see it right where you left it. Once you get a full dimensional band beyond the thought that you have in your head, you will start to see it as physically manifest in some form or another. So there's a lot of tricks of thought manifestation and learning to be a creator and what that means that come with kinetic morphogenetic science. But there's also a lot of things that have to do with the direct spirituality of it that are even more important. Let me see if I want to go into any more of this one here, if I want to get to something earlier stuff. Oh, I need to check something. I know we have the right to music, and you can't stay with us all day today, so I want to make sure that we get this wonderful music behind your meditation before he has to run. Elijah,
Yes.
what time do you have to leave here?
Like 1:05.
Okay, so you can stick around for a little while,
Yes.
right? Okay, good. So I want to get you to a certain point. There's a meditation that we're going to do. It's called Activating the God Seed. And I want to get you to understand what a God Seed is before we worry about activating it. So if you can stay a little while before he accompanies with you that meditation, I'm going to kind of fast forward a little. Some of the stuff, there's things that you've had. We have the kinetic morphogenetic science things. I would recommend for the people who have not been to one of the workshops before, we have what's called chart packs from the other workshops. They're very detailed versions of these with charts and diagrams and everything. There's one on kinetic morphogenetic science that explains in detail what we're talking about with that. It's a good foundation rather than like, I won't have time to explain it in detail to you now, but it is available, if you're interested in it.